having having been unprecedented. Some people left Hezbollah, but nobody dared to write. It's just something very private. There's almost zero tolerance within these groups, and they just couldn't take it. Thank God the book got a great exposure. It became top #1 in the Arab countries according to Virgin, made a big stir, a lot of fuss, a lot of TV, a lot of exposure. Probably that might have helped. And I got like about 300 interviews with journalists. Not a single one did not ask me the question, why are you still alive? Why did they leave you alive? Now, I didn't plan on writing another book, Under the Green Waters. I had a lot of calls from a lot of fans. I had a scream in my book called Lebanon Ahead. I want to see a better country, a better life. I want to stop the divisions, etc., etc. So I founded an organization called Lebanon Ahead, independent. I wanted it to be I wanted to set an example when I had these divisions between 8th and 14th of March and blah, 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 so that it would be a right outlet for these young people of my country to express themselves and have like a genuine approach to politics and society and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I was not killed, okay? But I was subject to a profound, well-articulated sabotage scheme by Hezbollah. And I didn't realize that until like way later, until the attempt to have this bridge in the Lebanese political scene through Lebanon Ahead fell apart. And I was so frustrated. I was so angry because the people that wanted me to come out and have Lebanon Ahead with them, they ended up siding with their factions and political parties, and they let the whole thing down. And I was so bitter to the point that I just secluded myself. Further meditation, I became almost anti-social. I had long hair, I grew a long beard, and that time was when I thought to myself that I should write more. I'm not done. The first thing I had done then is writing The Bees Road in English, going on with it. And I finished writing it, the manuscript, 3 times bigger than the Arabic Bees Road, because for the international reader, I have to throw in a lot of background. I tell you Beirut, you can understand in one paragraph how it looks like. There, you have to throw 50 pages of background and details. Not only background, some interesting details, because I took my time in exploring a lot of details I didn't cover in my simplified or abridged Arabic version of the Bees Road. Well, the writing was good. The story was compelling to the point that I got agented in New York with the Jennifer Lyons Literary Agency. I was like, wow. All that I was not thinking of becoming a writer. My agent, Jeff Orvin, he was such a lovely man. We talked a lot, we bonded, and he and the agency, and such a great agency, representing Nobel Prize winners, Pulitzer Prize and stuff, and he was like, Rami, I know you might not consider to writing as a career or as the line of work that you want to focus on, but I strongly advise you to take it, because through writing you can empower further your cause, because it needs time to build this awareness. And I was like, okay. We prepared the manuscript, did some editing, added some good stuff, had about 100 revisions by American writers, professors, British, some Lebanese, and it was like so compelling it should be published. Well, my agent thought it would make a bestseller, and he wanted like enthusiastically on publishing it. The problem is it was probably 2 parts, the Hezbollah part, and I got like a lot of comments from big shots, Random House, big publishers. all of them, most of them, if not all, they were not comfortable with the American part. I'm just sharing with you exactly what I went through. And it was like I had a lot of talks, Skype and talks with my agent. I was like, Rami, they're not comfortable because in that part, the Bees Road, I included the very details of my deportation, my blackmail, the FBI, the embassy, and they didn't feel right about it. They didn't like it. They felt like it's too much coming from a non-citizen, suspected terrorist. I don't know what went on in the close circles. And this, bottom line, had kept the Bees Road from getting published. And I had a proposal by many big publishers to trim down on the story of the American part. I didn't. And my agent understood. Because it's a matter of integrity. I owe it to my people. I owe it to my story. We kept trying. That was the big problem. It took some time. Through my agency, I went to Paris. Éditions en Carrière, prestigious publishing house there. I took the manuscript. They loved the story. And they published in a French translation of the story before the original story was published. And there was some interesting stuff that went with Stéphane Carrière, the head of the publishing house. And he was like, we love your story. We don't know where Lebanon is on the map. And these were like really touching words. We barely hear about Hezbollah. It's not about that. It's not about the politics that we love your story. It's because it has a universal dimension. Your struggle can be done by a Shia, by a Sunni, by a Christian, by a Muslim, by a Jew. They all can relate to this struggle, to standing what is considered to be wrong anywhere. So I was like, wow, cool. You talk in Lebanon and they drag you to the political alleys and the silly details. It's good to have something like that. And he was borrowing things. I'm not bragging about it, but from called some parts Shakespearean eminent punishment, stuff like that. And then he was like, I met him one time I was leaving. He was like, Rami, a question. I never brought up the American thing. What happened? He's like, did they ask you, because he read the English manuscript when we signed the contract, did they ask you to trim down on the American part? And I was like, I got shocked. Like, how did he know? Like, these people read books like they eat food every day. I'm like, yeah. And I'm glad you anticipated that. And he's like, what did you tell him? I told him, no. It's about integrity. It's like, you made the right choice. Because if you did that, you would have taken a lot of value from your story or struggle. Well, I was happy. I went out, the book was published. And then sometime afterwards, I got another email from my agent. He's like, Rami, I did further outreach and still the same thing. Let's trim down on the American part, conclude the book with denouncing the organization, which is in the book anyway, Hezbollah, and let's have some fresh legs for publishing. My answer was no again. And I remember I told him, if I don't care having it as a bestseller and all the fame in New York, and stuff. If I get 100 Shia people here, my people, to understand, to really believe in my story and take it as an example, that's way better for me. That was 3 months ago. And then I was like, okay. And during that time, I was writing. I finished the manuscript. I got agented. When I got the chat with my agent, I started writing what I was subject to, the sabotage, the Lebanon ahead thing. And I started to go full blast. With the Bees Road, I was walking the thin line, realizing the impact of that book on the Shia community, the Hezbollah, the thin line that kept me alive. I'm not gonna talk in details because there are like reasons for that. Okay, a lot of pressure, a lot of sabotage, but I'm not gonna talk about it now. The thing is, so I spent 3 years and a half maybe, yeah, from 2009 till few months ago, no, till March 2012, I finished writing Under the Green Waters in English. It's a creative, my book is a true story, The Bees Road to Every Single Word, nonfiction. I wrote the other book as a nonfiction account. It was extremely hard because that's, as George said, it's a big book, a lot of descriptions, a lot of details. And when you write nonfiction, you're responsible, morally and legally and on all accounts, for everything you mention. It was really hard to the point that in the middle, my agent just advised me to make it a fiction because I have the liberty then to, in addition to the dangers, because George knows that I mentioned some names, big shots that are like semi-divine to their people, with a very forward approach, exposed a lot of classified stuff that you never find anywhere. I finished that book in English, and my agent was like, again, let's go and do the editing, okay? And then I was like, okay, took a break. No, I mean, first comes first. We have to go with the Bees Road. That's when he gave me the other proposal, let's do it. And then I decided to rewrite it in Arabic. The same feeling, I want to give it to my people first. And he was strongly against. It's like, New York and publishing, and, in the end, we don't have real publishing in the whole Arab world. I was like, no, it's not a matter of writing and publishing. I want to be true to myself. I spent 4 months, and there was some sort of like, when you write, it's a big book. You got to be inspired. You get this writer's block and stuff. For some reason, some setting, it just all flew smoothly. May until November 2012, the whole manuscript in Arabic was set. November 22nd, the Lebanese independence, that's the summation of 8 and 14. The book was released. Of course, I lived very hard moments in the writing process. Even after I published the book, security and safety, and it's the talk here, it's unprecedented. So daring, you won't find something like that in 20 years, maybe. It's a first account of somebody coming from within and letting it all out. Toying with death, call it whatever you want. Classified stuff. I don't want to talk politics, but some nasty business, bloodshed, but all wrapped in a nationalistic human. I kept the wrapping of the Bees Road. I want a nation. We deserve better. We cannot let terrorist activities go on. Okay? And we have to raise awareness. There's no shortcut to stand against that. We have to have accumulation of knowledge and awareness until we have a change in the mentalities. That's how, and that's only how we can curb terrorism and fundamentalism. Last thing about the Bees Road. So after I got this attempt from the agent, I was like, okay, we're about to edit the second book. We have to, because it draws on the Bees Road. You read the book. The first third, it's about what I was subject to. A lot of pressures not to publish. They wanted to buy my voice, my silence, etc., etc. I stood against that. My family was dragged into a lot of hardships. So I was like, no. I told my agent, okay, I'm going to look for alternative ways to publish the Bees Road. And that's what I'm into now. It should come out, the English Bees Road, in less than a month. Hopefully in the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, and in the Middle East. And then we'll go to the second book. At least, I'm sorry you haven't read the book, most of you speak English, Well, by then, hopefully you'll have the chance to read this memoir and to reflect more on it. For the remaining time of my turned to be long introduction, I hope I didn't bore you with that. I'm going to just read some words from the manuscript, just about 3 things. The first one is about a baptism that I went through when I was a kid, and it was just by mistake. I didn't know about it when I wrote the first Bees Road in Arabic, the simplified or abridged version. I didn't know about it. When I took my time on writing the second one, my mom and dad told me, and I included this here. Let me just read. It's just part of the text. In Marjayun, I opened my eyes to the world. Our neighbors were of the Christian faith. They were my parents' best friends. One Sunday morning, over coffee, our neighbor Soha brought up her son's Joseph's baptism that day. Joseph and I were of the same age, and before long, his family invited mine to attend the ritual. When we got to the church, one of those Greek Orthodox churches, well known for its rich designs, the priest looked at me in my mother's arms, then at Joseph, hanging tight to his mother's neck. Probably I was more relaxed or something, I don't know. So, which one of these is getting baptized today? The priest asked. Almost before the priest finished his words, Joseph's dad uttered a quick response. It's ours, Father. Salman, my father's name, and his family are Muslim. In there, it doesn't matter, that's the priest, quote, who is Muslim and who's not. Well, you rarely find some of these really good people, but they make the difference and keep the word going. This is not the quote. We are all the children of God. So, do we have a baptism or what? My parents looked at each other quizzically. And why not, after all? Joseph and I underwent the ritual in turn. With the sound of my cries and his, and the chants of the priests filling the echoes of the church. I'm going to read the epilogue to the Bees Road, also short, and then I'm going to read from a chapter, the last chapter of the book, which talks about now, when I finish the memoir, the sequence of events, and I just have some current opinion about faith and religion. Recently, I paid Father Gregoire Haddad. I'm sure most of you heard about Father Gregoire, the Archbishop that was at odds with his church. Recently, I paid Father Gregoire Haddad a visit at the hospital of Mother Mary's house in Beirut. I wanted to check on the rebel in the 9th decade. I implored him to write a few lines that I could use as a preamble for my book. He apologized and declined. Well, I made this the preamble. It's an epilogue, but it was originally placed there. I insisted, which led him to say, "You impressed and provoked me. I believe in you, and I believe in your ability to achieve. My heart is sad because I'm unable to support you, even with a few words. I wish to stay far away from any commitments, ultimately free, like Jesus Christ." End of quote. Our eyes met, and tears embraced them. They glistened, casting a beam of shared passion that bridged the age gap between us. Father Gregoire added, quote, "Your commitment to life has touched me, and I am deeply stirred with your faith and your refusal of stupor. In all of that, I saw enough momentum for a new start, an ability to create almost everything from nothing at all." End of quote. A tear slid over my rough skin. We shared the glow of a smile, and I said goodbye. That's the part about faith and religion, and then all yours. This is the way I believe. With religion and faith, I consider faith a matter between one and God, and not an earthly assignment or a system of values manipulated to fit the desires of the clergymen and the rulers associated with them. And I say the same as somebody who once told me, I'm not a man of religion, but rather a man of faith. Our environments have bred us our opponents as traitors and rivals, with all